talk is again turning to the final deciders, the members of the Electoral College. After Hillary Clinton won the popular vote but lost the Electoral College vote to Donald Trump, there were new calls to abolish the constitutionally mandated system.
Before the founding, most people believed that democracies could only be executed at a very small scale, that is to say, a city-state. But our founders had a different notion. They thought not only could you have a republic, a representative form of government in this large nation, but in fact that republic would be better. And the reason it would be better was because if you enlarge the scope of the people within a government, those people have to form coalitions in order to govern. And there's rarely going to be an instance where 50% or 51% of the public feel the same way across every issue. That is to say, they have the same religion, the same vocation, the same fashion. You're rarely to have a group that's that monolithic across the entirety of this extended republic. So what do you have to do? Well, you have to make coalitions with people about which you agree on a certain issue, but not perhaps on all issues. And in that way, everyone governs a bit. Everyone has a chance to be heard on the issues that are most important, most salient to them.
Thank you. Well, it's no secret. I'm here today to announce that I'm running for President of the United States.
One of the things that probably they didn't even fully anticipate was that the Electoral College would force you as a presidential candidate to have to put together a national coalition. You couldn't do it winning one popular state or a sectional candidate or a special interest candidate. You had to bring together diverse groups. You may be unified by a certain principle, but on other issues you may not be so much together on. Culturally, you may not like each other. But it was a system that allowed for political competition, but doing so in a way in which you tried to bring people together rather than trying to find ways of dividing and inflaming passions.
So what the Electoral College does, it forces everyone to make sure that they make the rounds, not just to middle America, not just to the financiers of the world in New York, not just Tinseltown in California, to make sure that they make the rounds going to all the states, all of America, to bring their unified message.
The presidential vote is not one big thing. It's broken into pieces. And how you put those pieces together like a puzzle is how the president creates a governing consensus.
The Democrats are a going concern in the most Republican states, in Oklahoma, in Wyoming. The Republicans have campaign offices in political organizations in California, in Vermont. This is part of the Electoral College driving the parties to constantly be probing, can we pull this state or that state into our coalition? We hear this talk every 4 years about expanding the map. That's Electoral College lingo, right? Expanding the map means reaching out, winning people over, building a bigger coalition. Expanding the map is an inherently good thing that comes directly from the Electoral College.
Without the Electoral College, the presidency would be decided in Boston, New York, Chicago, Seattle, San Francisco, and Los Angeles. That's where the game would be without the Electoral College. Instead of that, you have candidates for president going all over the country and not just going to urban cores.
Politics are local. So the Electoral College brings a national campaign to the local community.
Candidates have to be careful about how they allocate their time and resources because it is unproductive to spend too much time in one part of the country or in one big city. So over and over again throughout history, presidential candidates who have tried to overly focus on one type of voter have failed. The Electoral College does not reward that. On the flip side, if we had a national popular vote system, we would suddenly find that that strategy became very productive because it's easier to go spend a bunch of time racking up votes among voters that already want to vote for you. You can imagine a Democrat running out to Los Angeles or San Francisco and promising the environmental lobby anything they want, because if you can get 100% of California voters behind you, that's way better than getting 50.01% of voters behind you. Likewise, you can see Republicans running out to Houston and Dallas and promising the oil interests anything they want.
You're now just chasing a few ideas and policies in the most populated areas. Obviously, in a system without the Electoral College, you're now going to start promising positions of power in the bureaucracy in D.C. to whatever locations get that president the national popular vote majority that he needs. So can you imagine having a system where the EPA director is always going to go to Los Angeles County because Los Angeles County is always going to deliver 10 million votes? Whoever wins that national popular vote is going to be incentivized to distribute the winnings, if you will, and the strings of power to those few localities that have resulted in him winning.
Help make history and volunteer, because this race is going to be won on the ground. And it's going to be won in Colorado and in Iowa and North Carolina and Michigan and Florida and Pennsylvania, and then we're going to the White House.
Howard Dean took over the DNC, and his big push was a 50-state model where he was going to focus on party building in each of the 50 states. Now, granted, Democrats didn't start competing closely in Texas or Georgia right away, but they are now. And I think that's attributable to Howard Dean really recognizing, in a way that other people didn't, that a 50-state model works, and that a party that competes across all of the 50 states and puts more states in play wins more.
My name is Stacey Abrams, and I intend to be the next governor of Georgia.
If you look at Georgia and Texas and how close those races are becoming, I think you can trace that back to the party building that was done at that time. And I think the Republicans should play catch up now and focus on building up the party apparatus in blue states. And honestly, Trump was the first candidate that took the upper Midwest seriously. It's because he had better data. Better data becomes, the more clear it will be that more states are in play, because you have a sense that, oh, these people are not as won over by the party that's been winning that state as you might suspect. So I think more states are going to come online. And I think 2016 was evidence of that.
Without the Electoral College, the Democratic Party would be really tempted to ignore a lot of Americans. That would be terrible for Democrats who live in places, frankly, like Vermont, right? I mean, I think this is why Howard Dean talked about a 50-state strategy, because Howard Dean did not want his Democrats to be left behind by the New York Democrats, the LA Democrats, the Chicago Democrats. The Electoral College, in a way, is more important to the Democratic Party than to anybody else, because it forces them not to become so insular, so urban-centric, that they ignore the rest of the country.
We're still an extraordinarily diverse country, so it's important for our system of selecting the president to represent that diversity, and in fact, to force candidates for office to experience that diversity firsthand. That's exactly what our Electoral College does, by, in a way, forcing presidents to go out in each region of the country to fight out the election in these swing states, which we've been fortunate in every election to have many of them spread across the country.
It's good for America if the Democrats have a 50-state strategy, and it's good for America if the Republicans have a 50-state strategy. If we start ignoring people and writing off huge swaths of the country, we are destroying our country.
America is not a one-size-fits-all, right? We have different values, different thoughts, different beliefs. That's why we have a system of government where one political party can win in 1 year, and 4 years later, it could be a different political party.
You can't win the presidency without urban voters. You can't win the presidency without rural voters. You can't win the presidency without minorities of every stripe. You can't win the Electoral College without that. If you throw that off and you just have one national vote, all you need to do is win one more vote than the next person. One of the keys to the Electoral College's success is we get competitive elections. So Barack Obama can win the Electoral College, and Donald Trump can win the Electoral College. And George Bush can win the Electoral College, and Bill Clinton can win the Electoral College. That's something pretty cool about that.
Right now, 8 p.m. on the East Coast, Connecticut, 7 electoral votes. The president. Delaware, the president will take 3 electoral votes. The District of Columbia, Washington, D.C., and its 3 electoral votes. His home state of Illinois, a big prize, 20 electoral votes. The president also will take Maryland and its 10 electoral votes. In Massachusetts, the home state of Mitt Romney, all 11 electoral votes. In Maine, 3 of the 4 electoral votes. Rhode Island, all 4 electoral votes.
So you have to be more than a narrow candidate. That's fine in a congressional election or a state election, but nationally, in a country like this, which is a continental nation, the Electoral College ensures as much as possible that you put together a national coalition.
process. It's not a purpose.